I don't know what they laced Valheim with, but it's one of the most addictive games I ever played, which is why we're gonna play it for 100 in-game days and see what happens. In Character Creator, I assemble a reasonably red-headed, long-haired gentleman to finally live out my fantasy of being a big burly man and oh no! Oh no, how did this happen? Oh, I guess we'll have to keep it. I name my character Bog Flam as I fully intend to become a horrifying swamp witch. The loading screen tells me to build a rudimentary shelter as soon as possible, and I know full well that if I start building, I will spend at least the first 80 days doing nothing but that. And so it begins. Day 1, and I ride the caked up Valkyrie to the drop point like she's a battle bus. We're a Viking who lived out their life in the regular world and now is being brought to Valheim, where I'll have to earn my place in Valhalla by defeating the Forsaken. The Forsaken are essentially boss monsters. There's 7 of them in the game right now, and each could be a video in their own. I am given the location of the first boss, but I still need my gear and certain resources to summon him. So I start doing the Minecraft special and begin punching trees. I need 5 planks to get my basic axe, and the Greylings are way too eager to chase me down for someone made entirely of planks. Usually I scoff at building starter shelters at spawn, but this time I lucked out and the initial altars are positioned by a rather cute shoreline, which means not only do I get a quick access to flint and flint tools, I can have this become the center of a seafaring civilization. Which rocks, because I do enjoy me a boat in this game. Also healthy supply of neck lizards. These are the most basic enemies that dwell around rivers, but they do provide a nice source of certain kind of meat. To my surprise, there already is a shack nearby that I can use as a station for my crafting desk, since I couldn't be bothered to build my own shack. The table needs its own walls and roof for me to access, and it can be annoying building them in the field. Now, with a flint axe in hand, my first instinct is to deforest the nearby area and start constructing that basic shelter I heard so much about. Naturally, by nighttime I only have the floorboards installed and just about make it to putting down the bed, which doesn't work anyway because it needs walls and a roof above it. I guess I should be less ambitious and keep shelter even more basic than that. Surely a mistake I will never repeat again. The morning is dedicated to untangling the modern art I accidentally assembled out of fallen trees and reshaping it into something resembling a small bedroom. The Greylings show up to try and talk me out of it, but with a flint axe they're just bags of log and sap. Naturally, I immediately overcomplicate the front window design, up to using the standing torches as thin wooden sticks for decoration. With my whole log supply, I still only assemble something like half of the building. It looks rather picturesque, but that doesn't help with the fact it's still missing the ass half. With the overambition already breathing down my tail, I decide to take the night to build more of the home, because I don't want all 100 days of this to be spent on me positioning a plank exactly right. Famous last words, I know. Well, joke's on me, as while I was messing around, Ikthir, the first boss, got bored of waiting and sent out his forces to check on me. His forces of 2 neck lizards and 3 boars. They were all delicious. Happy with my new defenses, I lay down for a nap. And only in the warm morning light, I finally see that I have built my house with the door leading directly into a birch tree. This is significant because I cannot chop down a birch or an oak right now. You need at least a bronze axe to do so this is staying here for quite some time. With the tech progress firmly locked behind killing the first boss, it's prime time I started at least gathering the supplies to fight it. You don't need much to fight Ikthir the electric cow, but it always helps to have spares, so I run around the shore gathering flint, rocks and assorted pig parts. Until I stumble onto my first patch of the dark forest biome. Naturally, eager to jump over the progression line and get wasted on the blueberries, I barge in. Especially since there's a stone ruin on the approach and it could make for a nice settlement if the local skeleton allows it. Just to be cheeky, I decide to not fight him directly and just plop a campfire in front of the entrance, which makes the stupid thing burn to death. My castle now, mark it on the map. But more importantly, here in the forest, I find the resource I've been so looking forward to. Pine. Pine trees drop a different kind of log, the core wood, allowing the player to build taller without their structure collapsing. For now though, it only lets me craft the sitting log and kinda sorta recreate that one Marge Simpson meme. I guess at times like this, all you can do is laugh. Come daytime, I spend my newfound leathers on a spear and a shield. I don't expect the deer population to really fight back, but I do enjoy that you can apply a pattern to the shield and then carry it on your back. To an average player, this should be enough equipment to take down the first boss. To me, no idea. During my very first hunt, Hagen immediately spawns to tell me all about how shields work, and seemingly spooks the deer I've been aiming at. Thanks, bird, you really helped there. Overall, my spear skill is beyond garbage, and the first prey I actually successfully sneak up on ends up being a bee nest. Finally, I get one single deer killed, because it simply runs into me in panic. Luckily, it drops a trophy, so I can't summon half the Igfir. With my second melee kill, I am now ready to face the living power line that is the first boss. Though I should probably figure out how a spear works before I do that. Unfortunately, it is turning nighttime and I am the furthest I've been from home yet. Before napping, I installed a deer rug made of my trophies to win some extra rested effect before the big day, and fall asleep dreaming of electric deer. Now here's the thing about the rested effect. Comfort is one of the most important things in the game. A well-rested and well-fed Viking will not only have extra health points and stamina thanks to the lovingly cooked food, they will also rapidly regenerate both as long as the comfort effect is applied. The more decorations you have at your homestead, the longer this effect will last. And that's why I'm so eager to go into battle, despite literally not having the pant on my butt. I kiss the dur birch for good luck and depart to the altar. I place the deer heads onto the stone table and the sky goes dark and the music swells. Igftir reveals itself. And though the fight music and the visuals are overwhelmingly epic, we soon find ourselves in a Benny Hill skit as I keep running up to the animal to score easy hits and then being sent flying with every attack even if I successfully block it. Soon even the boss music runs out, as if to tell me to hurry it up. To add insult to my many injuries, the durability on my tunic runs out and I have to face the wonder deer with my chest out. Thankfully, the insulating power of my brazier eventually wins out and Hugin is here to congratulate me on the battle won. Time to put the trophy head onto the big rock and fix me up something to cover the shame. With the antlers dropping from the boss, I can now craft the antler pickaxe, a tool for breaking rocks and digging minerals. Helpful little thing if you want to get into metallurgy, which obviously I want. I clearly need a stronger binder. My next goal is to establish a metal base and get a supply of tin and copper ore to smelt up into bronze. For that, I first and foremost will need the surtling cores to actually make the smelters. Without them, it doesn't matter how much ore I am getting, I can't eat it uncooked.
It's raw, Melissa!
Yes, chef.
Cores usually are found in the Dark Forest dungeons, but you can't get them at surtling nests in swamps, and get them much cheaper. So I am very tempted to try and find a swamp if there is one in the area at all. I mean, I need to level my run skill anyway, so I take a marathon around the shoreline to fill in the map. No swamp biome here, and really, I should be thankful. It would be 2 full game stages above where I am right now. Unfortunately, my second dungeon I get my first death from some skeletons, which is super embarrassing because my weapon is a flint axe, and the skellies are vulnerable to blunt damage. The way death works in the game is you respawn at your last bet, but all your gear remains in the place you were killed at. It can't stay there for as long as you don't pick it up, so no rush, but you do lose some of your levels, so it still stings a little. The skill levels are not gained through universal experience, instead through specifically doing the thing the skill is about. So the more you chop trees, the better you're at it. The more you run, the faster you start running, and every weapon type has its own damage stat attached to how good you are at using it. Therefore, no matter what, the more you die, the slower you are at doing things. I recover my items from the grave, but I guess I can't call it a no-death video anymore. In the process, my tunic broke, again, and I'm seriously questioning the might of my tatas. On the way home it did immediately turn dark, so I am now lost at night in the dark forest, And that's when I found a small army of Grey Dwarfs following me through the woods, hurling rocks and profanity my way. Unable to shake them off my trail, I dive into a burial chamber dungeon, only to be met with an even stronger skeleton and have to run back out. To my surprise, while I was inside, the god skeletons outside the crypt have successfully destroyed every Grey Dwarf following me, leaving me safe in the darkness of the woods, and not too far away from my stone fortress either. The best part of this trip was ultimately that I have now mapped out a bunch of dungeons I can yoink certain cores from, if they have any. I have a notoriously horrible luck with the random number generator. Then I did a stupid and I accidentally ate puke berries when I meant to throw them out of my inventory, and I got killed while I was actively vomiting. Second death, better than the first. Come morning, the skeleton war has turned the other way, and now I had to fight the very bone boys who protected me from the Grey Dwarfs. Not a problem, but now I am naked with my weapon in front of a dungeon, and I could go all the way home to fix my gear, or... Yeah, raiding the dungeons unprepared was also a mistake, I got ganked. With the situation rather dire, I break out my secret dungeoneering weapon, the campfire. Turns out, by placing a campfire in the middle of the dungeon corridor, which yes, you can do, and it's hilarious, I can not only set any advancing skeletons on fire, but also get a bonus rested effect, because technically I am both sheltered and warm. Rested effect free, in fact. This gambit actually plays out, and I receive 3 certain cores as my reward. Unfortunately, I need at least 10. This is gonna be a long night. Ah crap, I'm in the middle of dark forest at night again. Run, 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 run! Well, since I only have around 90 days before this video is over, I decided to skip the nap to reset my sleep schedule and go to grab more cores from another dungeon. The flint axe and shield combo does actually rather well in the closed quarters, even if I am running around butt naked. And this is certainly preferential to the open forest filled with Grey Dwarfs. This time I actually hit the Motherlode and find a room with 6 cores, bringing my total to just enough to start a metallurgical empire. But sadly, this is also where I would have to begin construction on a mining outpost. And this can't not suck. Day 8 begins with exiting the dungeon and immediately getting ganked by Grey Dwarfs. The more things change, the more they stay the same. I guess that's what I get for betraying my skeleton brethren. After all, on some level, I too am a skeleton. I find a neat spot with a stone ruin by a little lake full of tin ore and with a copper deposit nearby. It's even on the intersection with the meadow biome, where boars spawn, so it's a lower difficulty area in the first place. The only problem is it's already occupied by a pack of Grey Dwarfs who refused to get evicted until I stopped twitching. For a moment I can finally place a crafting bench and begin building, but the game certainly decides that life has been a little too easy for me lately and a troll shows up to screw with my lumber operation. Joke's on him, the troll then becomes my lumber operation, since, unlike my axe, the troll attacks don't differentiate between regular wood and fine wood. So I even get to jump the progression line by tricking the troll into falling some birch for me. I lovingly name him Bidiot, because he's a big idiot. Like seriously man, what are you even doing here? And we proceed to unbirch the general area, much to my delight. By day 10, I am finally able to break into the lake area, clear out the Grey Dwarfs, and even bid a tearful goodbye to Bidiot. Needless to say, a troll battle is significantly above my pay grade right now, what with me running around naked and with a stick. But hey, now that I got enough troll leather for a troll tunic, maybe I can finally craft myself a chest piece capable of containing my powerful pecs. Thanks to the trolled wood, my dark forest outpost is beginning to shape up, but it's gonna be a while before it's actually operable, and the weather immediately changing to storm certainly doesn't help. Guess that's all the more reason to build a rudimentary shelter By the time the weather clears up, I actually have a really neat looking log cabin going on, as long as you don't look at the entirely missing backside. The joy of building this time is that I get to use the tall logs that the pine trees drop, and they are really good for adding the extra depth to the structure. The downside is that I really want the main base for this run to be located in a swamp. And here I am, using up valuable runtime on an outpost in a biome I am already sick of because of all the Grey Dwarfs. To make matters worse, I get the message that the forest is moving, as my new base is invaded by a small army of enemies. This time, the second boss sending his regard. Watching back the footage of my many deaths, there is something we need to address here. And that is my, shall we say, unique playstyle. You will quickly notice that I don't much care if I die in the game, and often I will choose riskier path to the patient but surefire one. In part, it's because we're running on a time limit for this video, and the YOLO is frequently the faster path. At least, if it actually goes my way. It might seem like I'm just repeatedly dying to the same pile of Grey Dwarfs, and I am, but trust me, on some level, I actually know exactly what I'm doing. If anything, I am too good at the game, since it keeps telling me that I am carrying too much. After the fighting dies down, as do my numerous enemies, I built a smeltery and a coal kiln. Only coal can be used to power up the furnace, and the kiln converts wood into coal. It actually accepts any kind of wood from core to fine one, so if I now can burn up some rocks, I will be set for the Bronze Age. I dig some tin ore, put it on the stove and depart to fetch some of the materials from my meadow home. While in there, I craft myself the troll leather trousers, since I need a level 2 workbench for the recipe. Grabbing that and all of my bees, I kiss the dude birch goodbye and leave for my new home in the woods. Well, for half of my new home in the woods. The back part is still not built. And I know what you're thinking. Does he ever come back to chop down that birch? No. I spent some time alternating between copper digging and house building, until of course, a troll shows up to critique my creative choices. Me wearing his brethren as pants does not tip him off that I am not the easiest target, and he pays for it dearly by becoming my new chestplate. Finally, the smelting is done, and I get to build a forge and make the first ingot of the bronze alloy. This opens up all sorts of equipment and the whole next tier of weapons and armor. But most importantly, the bronze nails that let you create extra furniture and mount items on walls and desks. I am begging you to stop making fun of my priorities in the comments. I swear this is important. Or at least it is important to me. Obviously, I then immediately use that to mount a skull over my bed. Aside from the interior decorating, Bronze Age remains by far my least favorite part of the game. It's all in the crafting system, really. The bronze recipe demands 2 copper and 1 tin per ingot. So, 3 pieces of ore somehow turn into a single piece of material. To boot, the prices for all the equipment remain draconian, as a tree felling axe costs 8 freaking ingots of bronze, despite very evidently being a rather thin and small sheet of metal on a stick. This is, however, the first axe capable of chopping down birch, and the next boss literally is a tree, so I figure the investment should be way worth it. In the meantime, I get to pick the banner to hang in my room, and I settle on the purple one as it looks the most swamp haggy to me. Speaking of that, I finally start on my way to becoming a witch practitioner by putting together a cauldron, a unique crafting station that allows you to produce higher quality food, as well as bases for meat that essentially function as potions. For now I just boil some beef jerky together and mash the berries into a queen's jam, but it's a great start on my culinary journey.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
Valheim is home to a really unique food system. To start with, your character won't die of starvation. Your character doesn't actually need to eat at all, but that leaves you with a pretty small pool of health and stamina. Each food item increases your maximum HP and energy levels by a certain amount for a limited but significant time, say 20 minutes or so. But most food offers either a lot of stamina or a lot of health, and you can only eat 3 pieces of different foods before you are full. So you have to pick and choose what kind of loadout you would prefer for the day. Yeah, Valheim successfully replicates that feeling when you eat a single vegetable after binging fast food for a week. and suddenly your body functions so much better. That's why it helps to craft a cultivator tool. It can't plant trees, but more importantly, it can plant seeds. Like carrot seeds you find in the dark forest to unlock even more delicious food for the recipes. I mean, after a few days when they bother to actually grow up. Hopefully. In the meantime, I have slaughtered another troll and now have all but the cape for the full set of troll armor. Reason enough to maybe hunt down 2 more, so that I can score the extra bonus effect of being sneaky. Finally, I assembled that bronze axe I really wanted and put my old flint one onto the table as a keepsake. It's day 17, and it's about time I chop down myself the Elder. First and foremost, I need to find the waypoint to the next boss's summoning altar in one of the forest dungeons. With my new weapon and now looking like a troll's butthole, I should have no issue fighting through the same place I already beaten naked and with a rock. First dungeon I find miraculously has the Vec Vizier with the directions to the boss. It also has the Rancid Remains skeleton variant, so my luck is only halfway there. It at least looks really cool to explode the enemies into the bone shards like that. Looking at the boss location and oh, that can't be good. This is a really long walk from where we are, and who knows what kind of terrain lays between us. With my axe in hand, I begin gathering fine wood in industrial amounts. My plan to solve the Elder situation is twofold. For one, I need 30 quality planks and 80 bronze nails to build a ship to travel to the altar location. For 2, I need extra 40 fine planks and 4 circling cores to establish a portal link between the 2 places. The portals function in pairs, with 2 portals with the same password linking and teleporting you between each other. So to travel easily, I will first need to place a portal at home, and then place another one at my destination. But if I do, retrieving my items in case of death becomes so much easier. Now I just need a pile of nails and I'm so sick of digging copper! At least my carrots ripened, so I learned the deer stew and carrot soup recipe. Just in time too. I gotta get 10 deer hide for the sales anyway, might as well stock up on meat. With 1/5 of this playthrough done, I am eager to deploy my greatest achievement yet, my very own ship. It being a Carva, I name it the Kurva. If you are Polish, please laugh. I really enjoy sailing in this game. It's a rather hands-free experience, but it is a welcome change of pace, as there is very few threats to you while you're in a boat. It's also incredibly pretty when you're watching the terrain in the sky and the waves floating by. This game is actually very beautiful, and getting to see the terrain from afar like that only brings out the atmosphere. Between the awe of nature and the branches of Yggdrasil, the earth tree glowing in the sky, it really reminds you of our place in the universe. And is that a sea serpent? Ah crap! Bail, swim. The Carve is actually neither the fastest nor the simplest vessel you can construct, but it is much faster than the raft you can get basically from the beginning of the game. Plus, it actually has a cargo hatch that will help you transport items and ores and metals that can't be teleported. I also like how you can hold fast. It's useless, but you look super cool, and it's so much better than holding slow. Eventually, I spot a couple Grey Dwarf's nests on the shore. I actually need to destroy these to be able to summon the Elder. Grey Dwarf nests function essentially as monster spawners, and keep making new Grey Dwarfs as long as the player is nearby. But, if destroyed, they can drop the ancient seed item that I need for the boss fight. One goes down easy enough, but the other spawns a brute and it takes me down. I am now super far away from the death spot because I respawned back home and seemingly have no way of getting to my stuff and also to my boat. Serves me right for not installing the portal first, but... oh, god damn it! Okay. Let's try and rescue this. According to the map, there is a land area reaching out for approximately where I left my boat. As long as the brute hasn't broken the boat, I should be able to simply build a raft and cross the water. I reach the crossing and I swear my boat better be there, because otherwise I will be very sad. The raft itself is slow enough, but the wind is currently directly opposite where I'm heading, so I'm going pure rudder on the slowest vessel, and it's literally the worst possible option, besides swimming, which I have zero skill in. If a sea serpent attacks right now, I will be so delicious. Oop, there it is, my boat! Now I just need to execute. With Grey Dwarfs in hot pursuit, I grab my items, lure the brute away from my ship, and sail off into the night. I wanna say that I will at least learn from this mistake and make sure not to get stuck like this anymore. But honestly, that's what I said last time this happened. On the upside, I've gotten 2 of the ancient seeds from the nests. Also, the brute could have dropped another one, but I decided not to risk it. The road trip is almost over, but I do wish I found a good swamp to settle in. I am far from being able to actually survive there, but there are ways of cheesing the area. Approaching the shore, the unthinkable happens. I fucking drown trying to get out of the water. For once, I acted responsibly and parked my boat some distance away from the shore so the locals don't bother it as much. And I didn't realize that the shore I jump at is just a rock. And just look at this, like obviously I should be able to get there, but the game just won't let me jump out of the water. I respawn back home miles away, and in anger, I punch a deer to death. That's a new one. After a long screaming session, I scrambled together enough materials for another carve thanks to the spare pickaxes I made out of the antlers, and once again sail off with a murderous intent. Once I finally reach the previous landing, it's obviously nighttime. So I crash my boat against the rock, recover my gear and stand there menacingly as the sun rises, axe in my hand and murder in my eyes. But first, we set up an outpost. I just want to portal home. But that's when I am hit with the realization that by now I have completely forgotten the code word I entered for the original portal in my living room. Good thing I'm recording this. I just look up what I typed in the footage and can finally pass through the magical anus. For fun, I fiddle with the architecture around the place and actually have a nice looking dock. Figure it would be cute to name this little place. So I look up Norwegian swear words and christen it Dritthelvete. I'll leave it up to the viewer to decipher my intricate puzzle in the comments. My freshly built Dritthelvete is then promptly invaded by the Forest is Moving event. Little do they know, I can now parry stagger a brute, so really they just dashed me some planks more than anything. Before summoning the boss, I decide to scout out the area and clean up all the hostiles so they don't get in the way of our fighting. A small squad of great dwarfs and a troll holding a log greet me and politely explain that I should perhaps reconsider. Not feeling like fighting the giant, I stroll south until I find the swamp I saw from the boat on the way here. The Jogger and skeletons then quickly take care of the troll chasing me, and I leave without a scratch, since in the scuffle no one noticed my blue butt standing there with popcorn. This also being the one troll to drop the troll head trophy is very much hilarious. At this point I realized that if I'm this bored, I should probably go try dealing with the elder boss. So I toss the seeds onto the fire and watch as the area becomes a metal album cover. My first plan is to set him on fire using torches, so I brought plenty of wood and sap. But soon enough I realized that the fire effect is not at all outpacing the natural regeneration of the tree monster. My axe deals way more damage, but the melee stomps of the boss are no joke either, and I couldn't just tank through his long attack animations without catching a lot of strays. That's when I had the realization that turned the tide of the battle. Campfires. Not only can I place these wherever I'd like without needing a crafting table, I can plop one down directly beneath the elder's feet while he's doing his wizardly summon animations, and simply run away from the roots and vines while he stands there taking direct damage from the fire. Too bad I don't have any rocks with me to craft more, but soon enough I get stuck on the terrain and the elder politely sends me home where I have a whole chest of the stuff waiting. Of course, when I come back after my nap, Slenderman here has fully regenerated and has a troll and some great dwarfs running around his feet. Makes the kiting significantly more complicated, especially when his attacks shake my screen all over. I actually disabled the screen shake effect later, just for the sake of your viewing experience. You're welcome. It's a fun way of going about it. But you gotta keep a lot of variables in mind, especially since I got some rather flimsy armor to protect me. You gotta dodge his attacks while keeping an eye on not running out of wood and stone. Trick is, when you do run out, you can bait the boss into knocking down some trees or breaking some rocks to replenish your supply. You can also run in and break some of your older campfires for resources. After a battle that really shouldn't be as tedious as it was, the elder finally succumbs to the campfire strat. By day 30, I present the elder's head to Odin, and that grants me an option to chop trees really efficiently for a minute once a day. And I hang the troll's head in my camp kitchen, which grants me the feeling of a troll always watching me cook. I named the troll head Oluch, which sounds kinda Norse, and actually means idiot in Russian. You'll find there are a lot of words that mean idiot in Russian. With that, all my business in the dark forest is finished, and next up, it's finally the swamp. Gentlemen, it's time to get wet. And frankly, I am kinda peeing my pants already. With Oluch's remains, I craft my troll leather cape and complete the troll leather armor set. Doing so grants me the sneaky effect, which, on paper, should make me harder to notice. In practice, I am immediately chased by a troll, whom I of course employ on my reconnaissance mission, since he seems about as sneaky as I am. He, in turn, calls up all of his friends, and soon enough I am followed by 2 trolls and a line of assorted great vervae. My impromptu parade soon is disassembled back into twigs and trollhide by the local monsters, and I run off on my own to explore the swamps, hoping against hope to at least outrun the arrows. To my delight, I soon discover one of the reasons I wanted to set up base in this biome in the first place, a surtling nest. Basically a natural campfire that sometimes spits out surtlings, little flaming guys that drop the cores I need for portals and smelteries. And they spawn in a swamp, while taking damage from water. You can see how this is a very funny situation. But the comedic hijinks don't end there, as soon after an abomination spawns. Basically the local gigantic creature, which just so happens to be a giant tree stump, so it takes a lot of damage from the fire. Naturally, I lure the living roots towards the certain flame and laugh as it fries itself. The rooted drops are actually used to craft a special set of armor that I am really looking forward to. But I can't even dream of it unless I can find my way out of the swamp before the night, because then the creatures will become much more aggressive. Luckily, right as the night falls, I spot one of the local dungeons, and since I still have the swamp key in my inventory since the last boss battle, I may enter the sunken crypts. These are very much my favorite mechanic in the progression line, as not only do the swamp dungeons serve as explorable tunnels where you fight the enemies and claim riches, they also function as the place to get the next material metal, iron. The globes blocking off paths can be broken with a pickaxe, and they drop iron scraps that you can then resmelt into ingots. Thus, iron gear is much more fun to get than the bronze one, and is powerful enough that it almost is viable through the next 2 progression stages. Almost. And it's like a very wobbly almost. The devs also outsmarted my campfire strat here by making the crypts shin deep in water. Sucks that I can't mark which rooms I've been to already, but it's whatever. The only problem with the local monsters really is the frequency of the poison effect that multiple types of the enemy apply, which I also have a plan for. Just wish I deployed that plan before a poisonous slime farted me to death. Exploring a little more, I made an even more fascinating discovery. As I was following the edge of the swamp looking for a safer base area, I found that at one point the dark forest turned into the much more peaceful meadows biome. So between the naturally spawning boars and the intestines from the Draugr, I could feasibly have made the perfect spot for a sausage factory. Yes, that's a real thing, if you played the game you'd know that. What I then realized is that the meadows transitioned into a mountain, which is the next difficulty jump after the swamps, and also is home to tameable wolves. But as I approached, I found that the final biome that this area has for me is the plains. This might not sound like much given the unassuming name, but the plains are actually the hardest biome of the original game, before the Mistlands and Ashlands came out and proved that it can get so much worse. The mosquitoes spawning here alone are a nightmare for the unprepared player, as well as for prepared player, as well as any other player. But importantly, the barley and flax plants you get later into the game can't be planted anywhere but in the plains biome, meaning that this little patch could save me a whole lot of headache of having to set up camp in a much larger and monster-filled area. As if that wasn't enough, on my way back to the portal, I saw 2 lizard oxes completely decimating the swamp monsters. Meaning, they spawned on that tiny piece of land, chose violence, and have now made it all the way here, leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. This whole playthrough I've been luring things twice my size to fight other things twice my size. Yet here they are, already doing all of that for me. And the further I walked back, the more it dawned on me that what I've discovered here is a naturally occurring mob farm, and I only have 67 more days to take full advantage of it. First things first though, I scout out a flat spot on the hill of the swamp to put down a portal and link it to my home. Unfortunately, shortly after, the ground is shaking event begins, and my newly established base is attacked by 3 trolls, while I already have been fighting off an oozer. Well, before I can enjoy a nice fight between the 3 of them, the trolls swing their logs and I am killed. Not by their attacks, mind you, but rather by a tree that one of them knocked over. With the portal established, my next play is to install a separate smelter in this new area, and get some iron too. This means I need to harass the surtlings for their cores, and hopefully get another 5 roots while I'm at it. And it just so happens that an abomination spawned in some time ago, and had by now found its way to the trolls that were chasing me recently. The fight was not even close. The Stumpling wiped the floor with the blue boys, and then focused on taking me out too. After it too is set on fire, I get my reward of the root material and can finally get the item that should turn around my swamp experience. What we're going for here is the root mask, crafted from the abomination drops. It has its own effect of significantly reducing poison damage, as well as driving home the horrifying bog witch look. Basically, I now have a gas mask, and also I am Groot. Now that I take less damage from the crypt slimes, we need to go get the rest of my armor. The very first dungeon springs 2 slimes at me, and seriously, it's not that bad. I get poisoned immediately, but even with my vastly suboptimal food situation, I survive fine and don't even take that much damage. This trip is where my not upgrading from the antler pickaxe should finally make some sense. All metal tools and armor can only be fixed at a forge table. The antler pickaxe, however, is compatible with the regular crafting bench, and is perfectly capable of digging higher level ores without an issue, if slower. Meaning that not only are the better pickaxes only an incremental upgrade here, they're also less convenient to use in the field despite having more durability. As to why I haven't upgraded the antler pickaxe itself, I am sometimes not very smart. Anyway, with my inferior digging tool, I have uncovered one particular Draugr who seems more confused by the situation than anything. Took him quite a while to actually attack me there. I genuinely thought that it's like a passive Draugr or something. While digging through the muddy scrap piles, I even uncover a Veg Vizier to the next boss. And oh my god, it's so far away again. Why is every single time with this? The dungeon yields me 89 pieces of scrap. Not a big deal. It's only 3 times as much as a player can carry. And I could try and sail this back to the forest base, but think about it. I have this certain nest here. They drop cores. They drop coal. It shouldn't take much to set up a smelter here and save myself a lot of transportation and even some coal smelting. Then again, transporting 90 pieces of iron at almost 1,000 kilos is going to be a problem regardless of the distance. Over-encumbrance in this game actually still allows you to move, just not like you used to. Instead of the usual sprite jog, you're doing what I can only describe as sad Charlie Brown walk, until your stamina runs out and you're just standing there, looking like you found a penny. But also, your stamina doesn't regenerate. So once you're out and tired, you can't move anymore until you stop being over-encumbered. Which is why I just drop my stuff on the spot, wait for the stamina to regen, then grab it all back, and keep on scooting like that until I reach my destination. The only problem with doing it like that, besides it taking forever, is that throwing something into a deep puddle of water is how you guarantee that item to despawn in this game. So given that I am in the middle of a swamp, I gotta keep an eye on the terrain and also on local monsters, because getting attacked midway through this would truly be horrible. After smelting my first ingot, and being assaulted by a pile of notifications about all the stuff I can make out of it, I come to the realization that none of this can be made without first recreating all my crafting tables from the forest base. Even the material my cauldron and forge are made of can't be teleported, so I really am better off just gathering all the new tin and copper. Now, there is a very sketchy workaround for the teleport limitation. The Valheim characters and their inventories can be moved between different worlds. You can easily just log into another one of your worlds, drop everything on the spot, teleport to where you want in this world, quit again, pick up your stuff in the spare world and log back into the target world. But I already cheesed a lot about this game, and this does feel close enough to cheating that I decide against it within this playthrough. I mean, there is literally a cheat in the game to disable the portal limitations in a chosen world. So if you really find these limitations annoying, there's a convenient option for you. But for this video, however, I'd rather keep it clean. Which means I have to play basically the whole game again, but faster. Goody. While I've been packing up, the seeds I found in the swamp grew up into turnips. The extra vegetable unlocked a spice rack for my cauldron, and now I can craft a whole bunch of new recipes, including the one I've been looking forward to the most: sausages. Sausages provide a large health boost, come in a fun shape, and are made of pretty easy materials. The one thing that isn't just dropped from enemies here is the thistle, and I've been secretly collecting it the whole playthrough. The other ingredients are boar meat and draugr intestines, which is absolutely disgusting, by the way, given that draugr are pretty much just dead people. They're a different creature from humans according to the lore, and their kind was punished for waging war on Odin. But like, look at him. This is just what my dad looks like. Either way, the guy meat and pig flesh mix is a really helpful recipe for someone, I don't know, building a base between the biomes where either of those spawn, for example. Setting up the field crafters turned out to be much faster than I thought, in part thanks to the copper deposit directly above my house. While I try to come up with a big enough homestead, the iron finishes smelting, so I can craft the iron grease and a more powerful chestplate. My thinking is to also get an iron axe to help with tree chopping and put together a mace, since the next boss has a weakness to blunt damage. Absorbed in my work, I only ever come home to cook and sleep, which I now realize is probably very relatable. By day 41, I'm done with my armor, and I'm looking so much more formidable than I actually am. To test my literal metal, I decide to have a fair fight with an abomination. I then find out that with how little damage I'm dealing, there is no such thing as a fair fight. Luckily, the tree stump's attack patterns are buried somewhere deep in my brain, and I manage to circle strafe it until it becomes lumber. While waiting for more iron to smelt, I decide to start doing my building, especially since the iron level unlocks a new special kind of material: rock. With a stone cutter table, I can start building massive stone foundations for my home. Castle walls that are incredibly durable and can withstand blows from stronger enemies. I may have bit off more than I can chew with the size though. Just the two walls have easily eaten through my whole stone supply. Meanwhile, the rest of my iron is spent on a mace that I also then upgrade to quality 2. This meant I had to make forge upgrades as well, but it's something worth doing regardless. You better be worth it, you stupid stick. While building, I ran out of wood pretty much non-stop. Thankfully, this troll came around and started swinging his own. This is when I found out that I am now strong enough to parry the troll. His swings just bounce off my banded shield. There's 3 types of shields in the game, between bucklers that are really good for parrying, and tower shields that absorb way more damage but can't be parried with. But I personally prefer the round shields for versatility and because you still get to apply a pattern to them as long as you remember to press the style button. But a lot of the attacks of this troll still land, or at least they land somewhere. By the time we're done fighting, the ground is littered with logs and planks. While I'm in the woods, I decide to finish the woodsman cottage. It's a little eclectic but looks cozy and nice. You really get used to adding balconies and flower boxes and stairs to the roofs once you start. Playing around with building also finally gave me the idea for what I want to do as my main base: a wizard tower. I've been really upset about my swamp base, because in the swamp the weather is always overcast and damp, so you can't really see your builds, while in the meadows the atmosphere is a little too cheery for my liking. But if I raise my tower on the border place I picked out, I would get a nice view of the creepy swamp tree line, while from the swamp itself, my tower will look absolutely badass. Right now, however, day 50 is rapidly approaching, and I need to maybe get Bonemass dead before that. Funnily enough, I don't even need to kill it to progress through the game. Technically, the silver for the next level of gear can't be found without it. You could just randomly stumble into a deposit, but it would be rather tedious just mining out an entire mountain, and also as a swamp witch myself, I kinda have a point to prove here. With the certain cores and materials for the portal, I begin traveling to the altar. Now, I just need to sail all the way there at night, jumping at every fish over the waterline, thinking it's a sea serpent, and yup, there it is, there's one. You know, I could have made a faster boat. I did have the iron for the nails. On the approach to the boss arena, a t-shirt icon appears on my map, so I gotta stop and check it out. A trader dwarf has set up a camp out there. Her name is Hildir, and she sells outfits. She complains her things are all gone, but she says she got the locations where I can bring them from. Interacting with her map adds a bunch of new markers onto my map, so I could try and unlock the new outfit. Okay, this is genuinely amazing, and this is my first time seeing this in the game. But I have a must to bone, so let's get back to it, shall we? But clearly, the game doesn't want me to ever get there, because in the neighboring dark forest, the little bug icon appears, signaling that there's another trader, Haldor. And I didn't want to get distracted. But this could be game-changing. There are a few really helpful items he sells that I very much needed like 30 days ago or so. And fortunately, I saved up enough treasure to sell him to afford the most important one, the meadows. A belt that adds 150 kg to the player's carry capacity. Which is great because I will need to carry real hard now that it's day 50. And the bone mass is going to die. Operation Bond Mass begins here. Step 1. Pick up my portal from Hildir and take it all the way back to the ship because there's a strait between this forest and where I'm trying to get. Sail carefully because there's plain biomes nearby and the mosquitoes will absolutely kill me. No, for real, they are the worst enemy in the game. Step 2. Get my boat attacked by a sea serpent while the wind direction is directly the opposite from where I want to go. Ah yes, all according to Keikaku. Step 3. By the evening, crash my boat into the swamp shoreline and install the portal on top of the sunken crypt where not many other enemies can really get to it. I'm coming for you, you blobberal bitch. Step 4. Teleport home and dig into Grandma's cookbook to assemble a celebratory meal despite not having any of the good vegetables. Step 5. Cry myself to sleep over not having killed bone mass by the day 50. Step 6. Fix everything I own, eat everything I can, and finally, summon the Bond Blob to put it down for good. He looks like Mr. Oogie Boogie from Nightmare Before Christmas. He can't be that tough. Step 7. Die to its most telegraphed attack like a loser you are. Sure, yeah, okay. I'm not sure why when I respawn it's raining pee. But yeah, I deserve that. Step 8. Upon respawning and regaining all my stuff, I actually have a harder time fighting the latter half of the bone mass. Because with some of my skill points now missing, I no longer can one-shoot the skeletons and slime blobs this boss spawns to assist in battle. On the upside, one of his help is now cheering on us from the sidelines, because it got stuck on top of the skull altar and couldn't figure out a way down. The biggest hurdle in this battle ultimately is my own stamina. My health is not tanky enough to withstand more than a couple missed attacks, and rolling through the very telegraph hits, or even blocking them, eats through my stamina fast, leaving me unable to counterattack. A lot of this fight has been spent running around the unbreakable altar in the middle, waiting for either my health or my stamina to regenerate. But by the evening, I finally rush in, and there we go! I slaughtered myself a bone mass. I took the trophy to display above my bed. The message should be clear. I own the swamps, not your bony mass. Okay, actually that might be a little too big for my hut. Let's go put this at Odin's altar. It actually has a really helpful power I can activate. While there, I also added a portal to the place, so I never have to walk there on foot again. Still, on my way back, I actually got a unique item from the meadows biome. Oak seeds. Acorns, actually. Oak trees can only be broken with bronze axe and up, and they rarely drop their seed. But these trees drop both fine and regular types of wood, and they drop a lot of it. So if I can get a large orchard going on and actually get a return on my acorns, I will have a much easier time with my building addiction. In the meantime, the game decided I had it too easy for a while and threw the skeleton surprise invasion event at me. Or, as far as I'm concerned, the left click, left click, left click, left click event. They really don't do well against my mates is what I'm saying. For how disoriented I may seem, my goals are actually now coalescing into one. I can't even go into the next area without something to protect me from the cold, like a frost resistance mead that I can brew using fermenters. But even if I do make one, I need a supply of food to really last through the challenges the area presents. And at this point it's pretty clear I can't make a mead cellar out of the foundation for my wizard tower. So I better start working on those fermentation barrels. Obviously, the whole operation also needs a field for ingredients, so I decide to set up a terrace on the hill with a retaining wall because I will always take any excuse to build stuff in this game. As I'm gardening, the smell of sulfur in the air invasion begins, and I'm delivered some sulturing cores. They are still attached to the surtlings, unfortunately. It is kinda funny to be someone named Bogflame while burning alive in a bog, at least. Trying to build terrain in Valheim is a little complicated because you are very much sculpting something that really doesn't want to be sculpted. For one, you cannot make tunnels, so if you just hit a cliff wall with a pickaxe, the whole cliff just moves out by a bit. While secretly adhering to a grid, that's not really communicated to the player. You can add that height back using a hoe, which yes, there is a hoe, but there's also a cultivator, which are different tools for different purposes. You can level ground with a hoe, which is free, but you can also raise ground with a hoe, which costs rocks, and leveling can add height or subtract height, but only a little, whereas cultivating with a cultivator adds a little height, but also makes the ground fertile soil. But also you can retexture ground into grass using cultivator for free, and you can put tile over the ground, which costs rocks, and is done with a hoe. I hope we're all now on the same page, since this explanation left you as confused as I am about the whole thing. By the end, it actually results in a rather nice looking little area, meaning that I will be doing more of this for sure. Digging copper for my barrels, I am attacked by another log troll, but then it traps itself in the middle of the ore deposit, digging itself deeper and deeper with every swing. Works for me, I guess, and I feed it to an abomination as soon as it breaks out. Eventually, I get 2 fermenters up and running. It may not be the bootlegging empire I've been hoping for, but it's certainly a start. Now, to power them up. One gets the meat base for medium healing, and the other for frost resistance. Once these get done, I will be able to explore the nearby mountains and maybe even get a more permanent solution for the frost. Though that will take some time, so in the meantime, I decide to work on the floor over my foundation and... Oh, I definitely made this too big. This might not fit into the remaining 40 days. If only we could also work during the remaining 40 nights. After diving the wiki, I find out that the player-built stations generally create a spawn-proof area around themselves. I knew you could do that, but turns out torches and campfires don't even need to be lit to create that protected area, which is what I've been wrong about this whole time. Meaning, I can significantly cut down on building frustration if I just cover my neck of the woods in torches like it's the second night on a Minecraft server. Sure, it will take some time, but it basically unlocks extra 10 minutes to my days, since I can now work at night. Of all the ways I expected campfires to come back into video, this certainly wasn't it. While I ran around, the seed carrots blossomed, and in the flower boxes they really look kinda like flowers. So I briefly considered planting some permanently as decorations. Planting carrots as decorative flowers, god, this game is so sad sometimes. It's now day 69, and I'm erect in my tower. I'm erecting my tower. Unfortunately, this is as tall as I could get with Valheim's confusing support structure system, but it's still looking pretty cool over the swamp. Besides, the taller I build, the more stairs I will have to climb to my bedroom every single night. Then again, portals exist. It's now, with only 30 days left, I realized that I made a horrible mistake in my methodology. Because of how the building system in Valheim works, every new piece requiring support and only being able to reach out so far from the nearest grounded element, the most reasonable way of building something is to build a pillar as high as your resources will allow, and then simply 3D print the building from the top spot downwards. So now I have to face my worst enemy yet. The urge to tear down everything I made so far, to rebuild it all again from scratch. I mean, I've worked so hard, and it also just looks so very horrible. So fuck it. Luckily I can just remove the bottom grounded part and the whole structure very much takes care of itself. I even get all my materials back. Next, I raise ground as much as I can in the place I want the tower to be. This should help with grounding the materials. After all, nothing is more grounded than ground. Now I could start building right here. Thankfully, I got access to iron wood beams that can reach the furthest up before breaking. But iron is expensive, and all of my unused iron is in a swamp 6 business days away from here. There is, however, something that the Valheim community has figured out for tall building that is much cheaper. Apparently, any piece attached to a tree counts as grounded. So all I have to do is plop a pine cone on top of my dirt mound and wait for it to grow. Pine is especially nice here because it only really has any foliage at the very tippy top, where I plan on having a roof anyway. Besides, it would be very bog hug of me to have a tree sticking out of my house. While the pine cone decides if it wants to grow for a while, I commit to the rest of the building, since whatever room I will have in the tower will be most likely occupied by the stairway leading through the said tower. The swamp side facade is completed first, and I whinge royally realizing that I will have to match all of the intricate shapes on the other 2 sides. Finally, the tower pine grows up, and it's just the perfect size for my liking. Wonderful thing, reaching for the sky. First I wanna climb up there and put logs along the side of the tree, so I have points for other building parts to snap onto, and a skeleton surprise! Do you not see I'm busy? Here, fight this troll for me instead. Okay, they killed it. Wow. Confirm those grey dwarfs at the nest then, since you're all strong and stuff. Never mind, they broke the nest. See, I can handle them myself just fine. I'm very lazy, okay? Just as planned, I start constructing my tower from the chamber up top, and I can get such an incredible view from up there. I told you this game is super pretty. After installing the floor and the walls for the upper balcony, I have to more or less guess how the roof is gonna place, given that I can't see it at all behind all the pine foliage. Maybe if I had some scaffolding or the building was larger, I could enclose the pine in a spikier roof like I planned, but at this point the last thing this project needs is more scale. Oh, it's so tempting right now to chop down the tree and watch the whole structure fall apart. It would be so satisfying. I finished the walls leading up to the chamber by day 85, and I gotta admit, this looks super wizardly, especially looking up at it from the swampland. I don't think I've ever built something this tall in Valheim, so, much like the plains biome, this is a new territory for me. Happy with my accomplishments, I named this homestead Tapton, because it means something very mysterious in Swedish, and sure has been a thorn in my side. Too bad 2 of the house walls are still missing though. Not to worry. With the Elder's blessing and my emergent woodcutting skill, a lot of the trees just explode into planks now, so we really aren't hurting for materials much. While gathering wood for the build at night, suddenly I feel like I'm being watched more than usual. I was by the mountain stretch behind my base, and that's when I noticed him, a bipedal wolf creature stalking the night. The fury took no time getting to me, but thanks to a group of random grey dwarfs walking by, I managed to distract it, figure out its attacks, and then carefully explain to him that this is a cat household. What epic loot do I receive for my feat of bravery? A single wolf tooth. Yeah, fen rings are not worth the time of day like that, which is probably why they only spawn at night. By day 87, I'm more or less done with the exterior of the homestead. But it's not helped by me deciding to add a kinda second story balcony to the inner wall, overlooking the dining area by the hearth. I then commit an even bigger waste of material and install 2 bronze braziers at the main hall, just so I can actually see things in here. And because my own brazier has already failed me enough in this playthrough. I've now spent an embarrassing amount of time on this base, and I gotta admit, It's a really pretty build, it might have been worth it. Here's a plot twist though. This whole time cannot be counted as wasted, because the entire time I've been building this, I've been fermenting the freeze-resistant healing potions in the barrels. No, not just the batch I set to ferment in the beginning either. Holding it in there doesn't make mead more potent, unfortunately. Every 2 in-game days or so, I've been bringing 2 new mead bases and plopping them into barrels. I have most of a chest of frost-resistant medium healing potions ready to go for the mountain expedition. With 10 minutes of longevity each, I think I can now remain drunk one way or another for the whole rest of this video. And then the next one. Which there are only 10 days left now. So we better spend the time wisely. The obvious thing to do here is to try and hunt down the next Forsaken boss. It all depends on how the world generation feels though, so we might not make it. But either way, we're going to have a fun adventure in the mountains. Worst case scenario, we'll get her in a sequel video if you guys support this one enough. This is your call to action, write your comments, click those likes. I've put so much time and effort into this thing, and I'd be really happy to know that you enjoyed it. So, first and foremost, it would be helpful to get the next tier of the material, silver. The wishbone can locate that for us, I just need to take a walk around where it actually can spawn. I investigate the rather tiny mountain behind my base and get eaten by wolves. The wishbone does not go off once over the span of that entire hill. This cliff is very much just not tall enough. This will prove troublesome, as I absolutely do not have the time to set up a smeltery and the forge at wherever I do find some ore. Scouring my map, I find a mountain area not too far from one of the traders that spawned in. Too bad the nearest portal is the one I left at the swamp bonemass battle, but I can pull a very risky play. What I could do is I could pass through the portal, break it for materials, and then just place it wherever I want. As long as I don't die on the way there, it's gonna be no trouble. My boat is even still here. On my way, I also noticed the mark Hildir left on my map mentioning something called Smoldering Tomb, and decide to check it out. Hugin, the helpful bird, stops by to tell me it may be more challenging than one expects, so I'm a little hesitant to go in. This was incredibly foolish of me, since the tomb is just a mini-boss variant of the dungeons you generally find in the Dark Woods, and it's populated entirely by skeletons. Even if I weren't so wildly over-leveled for it, my main weapon right now is a mace, which very much one-shots every skeleton present. I do like the little animations they have of climbing out of coffins, that's pretty cool. The one notable difference here is the unique burning skeleton named Brenna, who functions as a sort of boss for the dungeon. And honestly, it's been a pretty new experience for me to find myself on the attacking side of a campfire. Having a wooden helmet in front of someone wielding a fire sword ironically gave me the chills. I might have as well came here covered in lighter fluid. But with a little rolling, I rather easily defeated Brenna. She dropped a hilariously massive chest that she clearly had no way of hiding on her person, being mostly a see-through skeleton. But at this point I had enough trouble with my own massive chest, so I'm not gonna question it. Since this chest cannot be teleported, I decide to fetch it to Hildir while I'm at it, since I do have a portal with me and can chain that with traveling home. Giving Hildir my prize unlocks a bunch of new outfits, which I honestly don't have the time to get money for. But I do put Brenna's skull over my bed as a trophy. And yes, in this scuffle, I ended up never making it to the mountainside that I was aiming at. But that actually is okay, as now I have a different idea to find a mountain for sure. The plan is to investigate the Howling Cavern marker Hildir left on my map. Cavern sure sounds like something that would be in a mountain. And even if the place does not have the altar for spawning Madur, I at least get to visit a cool dungeon? Cold dungeon? Freezing even? The cavern is also just across the stream from my forest base, so transporting the metal back to workshop will be no sweat, relatively speaking. I just need a boat, and naturally, I never broke my old one to transport the ingredients. Putting together materials for the new boat and another portal took the rest of my day, and under the darkness of night 90, I made it to the woods across the ocean. The way through the mountain has me battle a couple of ice drakes, who obviously fly, and so I can't really do anything about them. Which still reminded me that I do not have a bow, like at all. I never actually crafted one, and I'm trying to make my way to a flying dragon boss. My whole plan actually is to get the silver to craft Draugur's Fang, basically the best bow I can afford right now. But until then, drakes, and really most things, will probably be an issue. Dodging and swearing, I engage my inner Skyrim horse and try to no-clip myself up the mountain by hammering the jump and run keys. On my way, I encounter a delightful werewolf whose jump attack leads it directly off the cliff. So, that's fun. Near to the summit, I also found a small stone fortress populated by skeletons with a treasure chest at the very top. Also, a stone golem burst through one of the fortress's wall and started pulling aggro for me, which is awful kind of it, since it is actually a hostile creature. Inside, of all things, I discovered the next tier food ingredient. Onions. Generally, every area so far had its own seeds like that. Carrots for the dark woods, turnips for the swamp, and now onions for mountains. The difference is that the mountains are snowy and cold, so the seeds aren't just planted haphazardly like in the other biomes. I only mentioned this because on my first couple playthroughs I never found any onion seeds, which seriously staggered my progress. I didn't even know they existed, and you can imagine how badly I was getting beaten with my health way below where it's supposed to be. If only I could find some silver for the cauldron upgrade. Finally reaching the Howling Coven dungeon and hiding inside to de-aggro my small following of drakes and Joshes, I realized I forgot to bring the Great Dwarf Eyes. See, I felt like I've been missing something, but I couldn't figure out what. Okay, the way down is much easier than up, and there is a dark forest down there. But there is also a troll with a club out to get me. We square up and I can only deal blunt damage which he is resistant to, while he is too dumb to actually beat me. I pretty much get all 10 Great Dwarf Eyes before we're even done fighting. At least it gives me an opportunity to try and sample those health potions I brought with me, and yep, delicious. Once more refilling, I scale the Alps, leap into the first cave I find before the wolves get me, and craft the portal home, taking like 5 minutes to remember the Wi-Fi password. Back home I fix my tools, plant the onions, grab the rested effect, and restock on my Warming Mead. Warming Mead. This is just vodka, isn't it? Jump back, but wait a minute. This isn't the Howling Coven. This is some other cave. Whoops. The Howling Coven is actually just a harder variant of a frost cave. The dungeon's unique to the mountain biomes. They're not just rock cavities either. Some parts are cordoned off with heavy dews and clearly have been refurbished for a dwelling by a mysterious cult of suspiciously wealthy furries. I find these utterly fascinating, as the only lore you get about them is in the caves themselves, depicted on the ancient cave paintings. You can't sorta into it that they're making more werewolves down there, the red cultists being the ones in charge and the smaller quadrupedal wolves seemingly being like a larval stage of the transformation. Despite my admiration for their Fursona fanart, I get set on fire and die. Yeah, I don't know either why the cult of Fenrir, the wolf who will one day eat Odin, can't cast fireballs. I wanna say central heating? Yagloof relations? Ability to fart into a hand? So here's a fun fact. Your character does not get the freezing effect inside the cultist cave, even when naked. Funner fact? Butts are not supposed to be a difficult enemy. But to my naked butt, yeah, a little. On my next attempt, I suddenly realize why I remember the fiery boys generally being a pushover. Usually for this area, I always have the blessing of the bone mass that makes you resistant to most types of damage. But this time, because of my scatterbrain, I came here with the Elder Blessing equipped, which would be really helpful if the wolves were trees. Don't get me wrong, wearing a wooden mask here, they're casting Ember and I'm wearing a Bulbasaur for a helmet. While waiting for my health to regenerate, I make a minor discovery that the fire pits at the deuce for the cultist's room give out the campfire effect if you stand close enough. So I can't regen much faster as long as I basically put my foot into the fire. Also, the fire pits themselves are made of bronze, so they have a chance of dropping it if broken. The doors, however, have straight up iron ingots in them. But the real treasures of these caves are Fenris hair and red jute. The hair is not dropped by any of the creatures, mind you, and can only be found on the walls and the altars through the dungeon. The armor made of this item looks pretty awesome, but also provides some unique effects like fire resistance and much faster run speed. But even the chest piece alone would be amazing to have, since it makes the player immune to the idle freezing in the mountains and makes the frost meat unnecessary. Red jute in the meantime just looks really good, okay? Like, it can't be made to rugs or drapes, really ties the place together. Just my luck, the whole cave system has 19 Fenris chest hair in it. I do need 20 to craft the damn sweater though. Good thing I know exactly where I can get more of this stuff. The Howling Coven is immediately so much weirder than the previous one, because the first enemies I see there are upgraded bats. If an enemy has a star by its name, that means it's a stronger variant, and these bats, just why bother, you know? I get much more trouble from the 1-star wolves replacing the regular ones. For one, they are visibly much bigger than the normal counterparts, and for two, they refuse to go down in just a couple hits. This one slept until I started attacking it, and then woke up and immediately destroyed his own lamp. I mean, mood, yeah. Basically, every Wolf Star encounter is a race to who gets whom stun locked first. Generally, my strategy here is the same one I employ when dealing with women. Never let them catch you out of stamina. The worst case scenario here is to get swarmed by the dog people, which of course kinda sorta happens. Only a few are still awake, so I still have a chance at getting my items back. The corpse run is a little complicated because the doggos are guarding my grave, but I managed to exploit the one rarely known piece of werewolf lore, and that's that werewolves cannot go upstairs. Yeah, for some reason their pathfinding simply does not understand the rock stairways in their own dungeon, so I can lure the poppers into a pit and pretty much just jump out. It's still clutch, cause I am naked. But eventually, I manage. One gets stuck on a stairway and refuses to come down. What you doing there, buddy? Do you wanna go walkies? Do you wanna go walkies or not? One thing I didn't realize is possible at all is for the boss Veg Vizier to appear in a mini-boss dungeon. But here it is, right at the bottom of the stairway. Thank you, Hildir. I guess I can go take on the Dragon Mom now. And nope, that's so far away. Oh no. At least I know her address, but yeah. You do know I can't fly, right, lady? Exploring the tunnels, I pick up on something I never noticed before. The meat piles in the wolf chambers and at the altars have coins and treasure in them. I at first thought that these were some sort of offerings to Fenrir, but when I found a necklace, I suddenly realized these are the things of the people who have been brought here and eaten. That's why the piles only just drop intestine like the Draugr do. I brought the corpse loot to Hildir and sold them for a brown cup. That goes really well with my new Fenris hair sweater. It doesn't provide any armor nor warmth, but it doesn't make me extra vulnerable to fire either, so there. Well, that was a waste, because Haldor had something even better for my head to wear. The Dverg's circlet, that functions basically like a miner's hat. It's a portable light source that doesn't take up my shield arm and instead only leaves my head unprotected. I'm sure you can see how this is a good thing. Honestly, I just bought this hoping that my video won't be as hard to watch, but the flashlight beam really doesn't help much. I've been applying a little brightness setting to every single nighttime or dungeon clip in this entire video, so if you can't see anything at any point, keep in mind, I could see even less while playing the game. By morning of day 96, sign, I'm seriously spooked, as down the Howling Cave I see something wolf-like, but clearly bipedal. Turns out it's Gerhafa, of course, the mini-boss of the Howling Coven dungeon, essentially a white recolor of the Red Cultist, but stronger and with different attacks. And being another wolfo, of course it is stuck down the pit, unable to navigate upstairs. What an idiot. There's even another wolf down there, utterly failing at pathfinding. Now, if I had a bow, this fight would already be over, as I can clearly cheese both of them from up here. But wasting this opportunity without giving him a fair fight seemed disappointing, so I decided to give it a try. Joke's on me, this time it's the mini-boss that came equipped with his own exploits. The pit Gerhafa got stuck in was actually rather small, so the aerial attack where he freezes the ground around himself would be inescapable, since it easily covers the whole available area. And given that the only thing I can get out of this fight is a chest with more outfits for Hildir, I decide to just leave the poor dog down there. I mean, look at the good boy. He's just lonely. He can chill. I would argue he chills a little bit too good. But this does mean that I have the run of the Coven, and obviously I'm not gonna pass up free brass and iron from the furniture. Back home I noticed the onions are ready for harvest and gets exactly enough for a single onion soup. Delicious in French, which is pretty good for stamina, but I was really hoping to unlock the wolf skewer recipe, since it is one of the better health foods in the game. I can only cook that if I get the chopping block upgrade for the cauldron, which for some reason requires 2 pieces of silver. I mean, I get that it's a progression gate, but where are you using silver to make a butcher's table? Is it in the hatchet that comes with? Because silver is a notoriously soft metal, my man. I'm only so hung up on this because I can't actually break silver without at least an iron pickaxe, which costs 20 iron ingots, by the way. 20! Seems excessive, and I only got like 3. But I do have the wishbone from the bone mass fight, and maybe, if I wish hard enough, I can get some scrap metal without selling for the next 100 days. The way the wishbone works is it's basically a metal detector. You use it to find treasure and underground silver deposits. But one other thing it can locate are the muddy scrap piles scattered secretly below the swamp floor. So if I'm willing to play Marco Polo for a little while, I can scavenge 20 scrap for a pickaxe without leaving the neighborhood. And I do mean Marco Polo because half the time my own digging places me in the middle of a newly made pool. On day 99, I stalk the mountainside until my spidey sense tells me where the goods are, and then I dig until my pickaxe breaks. A stone golem comes by curious about this whole digging situation, so I dig a hole for it as well and lure it into there, preventing any more from spawning. It gets pretty confused about the skeleton fort here and actually just stands there, unable to suss out the path to either me nor the evil bone pile that he's targeting. And finally, it hits day 100. And I have some big plans. I finished excavating the silver vein yielding 34 silver ore. But as I like to say, loot is not what you found, it's what you can bring home. And there's at least one more thing worth bringing on this mountain. Even all the way from the mountain summit, I can see something purple, glowing in the cozy nest surrounded by drakes.
Can I offer you a nice egg in this trying time?
Still without a bow or arrows, I rush in and snatch my beautiful prize. Yup, the scaly egg of the dragon. It weighs 200 kilograms each, cannot be teleported, and you need 3 of these to summon Madar, boss of the Silver Age and a renowned MILF of the game. But that's not what I have in mind for it. Like, I obviously can't make it to the Madar boss battle. I'm so sorry. Look at my cool tower I built instead. It's worth it, right? I do have a boat nearby, but scooting all the way there over encumbered seems ill-advised while being fired at by drakes. So to bring it home, I will have to really put my brain cells together. Same goes for all my silver and the stolen metals from the wolf caves, by the way. Luckily there is a way to transport heavy items across long distances in the game. It's just very dumb, so I never really use it. Much like you can craft a boat and sail it across the seas, you can actually craft a cart and drive it around with the items inside. The only issue is that the only creature you can saddle up to power the thing, well, is yourself, in a kind of a rickshaw fashion, which looks silly enough already. I, however, had an idea on how to convince the cat to move on its own. So after putting all of my darling possessions into the carriage, I promptly pushed the unmanned vehicle off of the cliff and laugh and laugh and laugh as it ragdolls around, rolling down the mountain and into the woods. I then load up the heavy damaged crates of goodies onto my car and sail it back to Woodland Hut and into day 101. Proud of my exploits, I take my flint axe off of the bedside table, kiss it goodbye and place the coveted dragon egg in its stead. If it won't fry into an omelette, it will at least make for a nice nightlight. And that's my 100 days in Valheim. And the end of it all, I am so incredibly happy with how it all turned out. 3 out of 7 bosses is almost a half. I count it as an absolute win, especially since we got such beautiful builds to accompany us on the way. With the interiors filled in even a little bit, my swampland tower looks super cozy, but also very imposing from the swamp. That's to say nothing about the woodland cottage I have, or even about the starter base with that birch tree still standing in front of the entrance. This world is surely one I would love to come back to, if nothing else than to take a nostalgic look at just how far we've come over the span of just 100 Valheim days. Anyway, Gerhafa, thank you for listening. You've been a very patient boy down there, and I do think that you deserve a treat. Same time next week, unless they like and support this video enough that we get a second 100 days in this world. I'd ask you to like and subscribe, but you don't have Wi-Fi down there, so I guess I'll just see you later.